1927, the worst recorded flood in the Mississippi River's history. (1937), the Ohio and Mississippi team up to cause the greatest natural disaster in the history of the world. (1947), again the fateful 10-year cycle, mine explosion, Centralia. Ship explosion, Texas City. The worst floods in 44 years of Michigan's history. The Red River on the rampage in the Dakotas. 15 tornadoes in one 30-day period. One of the worst, the black funnel that hit Higgins, White Deer, Glacier, Shattuck, and Whitehorse in the Texas-Oklahoma Panhandle. And at 8:43 p.m. April 9th, tore into Woodward, Oklahoma. 4 minutes later, this is what was left of Woodward. 537 casualties, 85 dead, 452 in hospitals, 430 homes completely destroyed, 650 homes badly damaged. Flying steel killed scores, others died in their cars, 220 city blocks wiped out. Stricken Woodward was largely home-owned, and homes and the families in them are the first concerns of the American Red Cross. 1,600 families faced the job of digging out. Fortunately, a former Army air base nearby was undamaged and was taken over by the Red Cross, which set up an emergency camp for refugees, who soon nicknamed it Tornado Town. Within hours, this air base found an emergency peacetime use. It became a complete social service, housing, and emergency care unit. Within 24 hours after the storm, workers had put the camp into shape to house the families. Trucks moved in supplies. Long-closed barracks were opened, kitchens were cleaned up, latrines put in order, electric current was piped in, food and bedding began to arrive. These are the people, most of them folks who before April the 9th were living peaceful, normal lives in their own homes. And these are the volunteers from the farms, machine shops, offices, and factories who rushed in to help and for whom there was no food or lodging in ruined Woodward. The Red Cross fed and housed them at the air base too, as they pitched in to help their neighbors. While 500 Red Cross chapter volunteers from as far away as Wichita and Oklahoma City ran emergency services in Woodward, these workmen helped clean up the wreckage and ruin of the town. But even with the wholehearted help they gave, order is not brought out of chaos by waving a wand. Order comes from the coordination of the American Red Cross, with 66 years of experience in America's 200 disasters each year. To the old medical building, nerve center for all Red Cross work at the camp, came the refugees who needed medical or welfare services, housing, or other emergency help. This little family was housed together in accordance with the Red Cross policy of keeping the family together in time of disaster. The Red Cross camp director ascertained their needs and assigned them to a unit of their own. They were put into Building 6. He gave them directions with the help of a camp map. one unit of the temporary housing used by hundreds of Woodwardites. And mother and baby still could smile, knowing that a friendly hand is supplementing their own breadwinners' resources. Dad could take time out to read the funnies, even though he was in a temporary home here. The Red Cross will soon help to rebuild a permanent home for himself and his family, as well as for scores of other families now housed at the camp. It was almost as complete as a town, this army camp, as more and more tornado victims arrived. The Red Cross camp director became the busiest man around, meeting new arrivals, directing them to their quarters, seeing that there was food, transportation, medical care, bedding, soap, and 1,000 other necessary things for the people who turned to him for guidance and information. Bus service was furnished for the numerous necessary trips into town and for the delivery of new camp residents from the tornado-stricken area, who arrived hourly to swell the total of the camp's population. Medical and nursing care are vital parts of the Red Cross disaster aid. 178 nurses were at work at camp, town, and hospitals. Doctors, too, gave generously of their help, coordinated by the medical specialists of the Red Cross. Daily, the nurse made calls on camp residents to look for tornado-caused injuries and for any signs of contagious diseases. Chances for an epidemic are high in an emergency camp. The nurses' daily visits stopped any small outbreaks that might have led to serious consequences. And the nurse, making a note that this family is all right, goes on to the next dwelling unit. Skilled cooks prepared 1,500 meals a day at Tornado Town under the supervision of Red Cross nutritionists. On the left is a chef sent out to the camp by a famous hotel. One more example of the Red Cross' unique ability to muster all kinds of emergency resources. The emergency food, like all other kinds of Red Cross disaster aid, is always free. No repayment of any kind is asked or expected. Stew coming up, and the hand that prepared it is a skilled one. And raisin pudding for dessert. Three nutritious meals a day were served, part of the Red Cross federal obligation to be America's neighbor to Americans when disaster strikes. Today, on 2 hours' notice, 2,300 Red Cross chapters can house and feed 4.5 million refugees like these. The American Red Cross, as the nation's official disaster agency, performs these tasks and coordinates the work of other agencies and individuals so that the best resources and skills of the nation can be available to people who are struck down by circumstances too big for them to overcome by themselves. And there at Tornado Town were still more to be fed, a seemingly endless line, but there was plenty of food for all. In one 10-day period, the Red Cross served 46,000 people like these, a feat for which the American people themselves should take credit, because only through their annual generosity in the Red Cross Fund campaigns are such humanitarian tasks possible. In the dining hall, the family ideas maintained. This little group looked as though the chefs had done their work well. Self-service means that the people help carry their own plates back to be washed. How did you do in there, Buster? A Red Cross worker talks to 2 small camp residents, well-fed, well-cared for, and for the time being, content. Smiles reappear on faces of children who only a few hours before had witnessed the most terrible of tornadoes. These children are luckier than some of Woodward's children. Luckier, for example, than the little girl for whom the Red Cross will buy 7 artificial limbs before she grows up. A storytelling session may not seem to have much connection with the rehabilitation of tornado victims. Actually, this skilled Girl Scout leader, volunteering her services to the Red Cross, performed an important job. She helped these small camp residents forget the scenes of horror through which they had just passed, and she kept them busy so that their mothers could get on with the household tasks that are necessary even in an emergency camp. Medical and health care, food and lodging, emergency clothing, and the rebuilding of families, these are the primary tasks of the Red Cross after a disaster. But wound up with them are dozens of small, unpublicized jobs, like this one, coordinating the work of another agency so that the best resources of all combine to meet every need of every disaster victim. And if you think that yarn about Johnny Jump Up isn't as fascinating as Dick Tracy, look at the audience attention she got. Clean clothing was an important family problem at the refugee camp. Lacking a laundry truck, this woman found a cart to carry her garments to the wash building. One part of Red Cross help in setting up a laundry was to furnish washing machines that helped to keep health and sanitation on a high level. There was even hot water, and bit by bit, life began to shape up into a kind of routine, impermanent as it was. The women took care of their ordinary duties, sorted out what possessions were left, planned on beginning life all over again, and did homely, normal things like getting the wash out. For life goes on somehow, even after your home has been ruined, and even after you've seen the dead and the debris piled up like jackstraws in the streets. The laundry got done, and the sight of it, swinging in the breeze, somehow became a symbol of the return of hope and life again for the courageous people of Woodward. These are the people, young and resilient, old and very tired after that terrible night of April the 9th. Young mothers and babies. Very old women for whom beginning again is hard. And this is the way the storm left some of them. For these and the other injured who are without resources, the Red Cross will pay hospital and medical bills until they are completely recovered. But there is a brisk sound in Woodward today, the sound of saws and hammers as the Red Cross sets about rebuilding the homes of those who, because of the storm, cannot rebuild their own. And this building is done according to a fixed principle of Red Cross aid. It is always given, never loaned. Within 3 weeks after the storm had struck, this house was well on its way to completion. For the job is not over in Woodward. It will not be over there for the Red Cross until the last injured person is released as recovered by his physician, until the last family is back into its repaired or rebuilt home, until the last orphan of the storm comes of age 5, 10, or 15 years from now. The job of the Red Cross is never really over. For each year, every 2½ days, the sirens scream, the widows weep, and the orphans and the maimed stumble from the wreckage. Every 2½ days, it's April the 9th somewhere. And every time it happens, your Red Cross, with your help, stands ready to be your friend to your neighbors, the friend with the business head, the understanding heart, and willing hand.